this video, I'm going to show you how to do the ground fault test for the Edwards IO series fire alarm panel. See on your front here, you have the Edwards IO series, and on the card you have the IO 1000. There we go, zoomed in. So first, we'll just remove our little plate here. So as part of the ground fault test, we're just going to make sure that the circuit is in fact being supervised and it reports a ground fault. So we'll do it for our NAC circuits, which are on our right here, and our SLC circuit, which is on the bottom. So we have, sorry, SLC circuit up here. My apologies, off to the side. There's also the SLC down here, but it's not being utilized. So we have our card here, and we have our NACs here. So whenever we do a ground fault test, like I said, we're just making sure that it detects that there's a voltage leak. So you can see on our wires here, you see the little bit of copper that's exposed. That little bit of copper, if it goes, touches metal inside this can, or if it touches metal in a conduit, or if it goes to like a J box or something like that, and the copper is exposed, it'll ground out the system, so voltage will leak out of the system, and it'll cause devices to not function properly because they're not getting enough voltage. So these panels supervise ground faults and indicate a trouble signal. And typically we want to try to do each type of circuit that's on the system, so you don't have to do every single circuit. So if this had multiple NACs, you wouldn't have to do all the NACs, you just have to do one of the legs of the NAC circuit to get the NAC supervision to activate, and then one of the legs of the SLC circuit to get the SLC supervision to activate. And some panels don't even recognize the difference between a NAC or an SLC ground fault, or even a positive or a negative ground fault. It just recognizes a ground fault. So I try to do it a certain way where I always do a positive lead and a negative lead and one of each type of circuit. That way I can verify if the panel does recognize the individual ground faults or not, and then if it does, I'll get both positive and negative, and I'll get both like NAC and SLC. But anyway, so what we're gonna do is first, so we have our ground here. So our board right now with our transformer here, so our board is grounded, and there's little screws that you can ground to. So all the screws that are holding down the board, like right here, or right here on the corner, or like right here, like all these screws, you can touch your ground to it. And what we're going to use is a resistor, and just for reference, I'm using the 4.7 K ohm resistor. So I usually use a K ohm resistor. I'm going to be using my little alligator clips. So in addition to those little points on here, you can ground it to, or on the side of the panel, because again, this panel is grounded, so the screw is going to ground out as well. So I'm just going to hook directly onto it. So there's also one up here holding the door on. There's also a couple down here holding the door on. So all these are going to go to ground. And then with this end, I'm just going to do this one-handed, mind you. Oops, come on. Should have prepped this beforehand. There you go. So I'm just going to touch my resistor. Probably need to switch hands because I did it this way. I need to touch my resistor to the terminal. So what I'll do is I'll do the negative. So I'll do the black wire, and I'm going to touch my resistor to it, and it's going to go across my wire over to the screw, and it's going to ground out. So we're going to have a voltage drop on this this terminal here, and then we'll get a ground fault condition. So we'll put it right on there, just like that. Okay, so system ground fault. And you see we got our LED lit up. So I'm just gonna acknowledge. So we have our ground fault. And then it said ground fault on the screen as well. Whoops. There you go, system ground fault. And it should clear in a minute. Just take a second. The panel needs to just recognize that's clear. There you go. So our ground fault light went away. And then if I scroll up and down, I have my disables on the panel. I should have said that first. So I have disables on the panel. There's just 10 disables because I'm doing system testing. But I had an 11th trouble on here that was ground fault, but now it's cleared. You see the ground fault's cleared. So I did the negative lead on the NAC circuit. So you can see on the side here, there's NACs. NAC. The lighting's bad in here. I sincerely apologize. It's not good in here. But you can see there's where all the NAC circuits are at. So I did a negative lead on the NAC. So now I'm going to go to SLC. I'm going to do the positive, the lead of it. And we'll get this ground fault both types of circuits. I don't have to ground fault every individual wire. I just got to do each type and then the positive and negative. So right now I'm on it. Okay. And again, I got system ground fault. And you see I got my ground fault light, and I got system ground fault. So if I scroll, so I have 11 troubles because I got the new one added, system ground fault. But in a second, you'll see that that light will clear, and the ground fault will clear because I removed my resistor now. So I'm no longer ground faulting the system. Just wait a second. There you go. So it cleared. And now I'm back to 10 troubles. So if I use my up and down arrows, I scroll through my existing disables, which is part of my test. They're supposed to be here. I go all the way through, and my ground fault's gone. So my ground fault is cleared. So again, so I did the SLC and then the NAC just to verify that the panel does recognize a ground fault. So we have our LED light up, as well as we have our trouble signal indicated on the screen. And I did a positive and negative ground fault, and I ground faulted the NAC and the SLC. So I ground faulted two different types of circuits, and the positive lead, and then two different polarities, positive and negative. So the panel doesn't, this panel doesn't individually know the difference. Some panels do. Some panels will tell you if it's a positive ground fault or a negative ground fault, or if it's on the SLC or if it's on the NAC. This panel doesn't. So technically, we just need to do one ground fault somewhere on one of those circuits just to make sure that that supervision function is working. And I typically use a resistor so I could be a little more cautious. You know, I could reduce the current flowing through the wire when I ground fault it. But in this instance, like I said, I just have my resistor to the end of my alligator clip here. Like I said, the wire just goes right to the screw on the side. And you could also just do the resistor directly onto the screws on the board if you wanted to, but I didn't have enough room to reach, so I just used my alligator clips. But that is how you do the ground fault test for an Edwards IO series fire alarm panel.